Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 616, we're going to talk about Drana. Drana, the last Bloodchief. Now, for 5 mana, we get a 4/4 flyer, Vampire Cleric, pretty good. Whenever Drana, the last Bloodchief, attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You get to return it to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. That creature is a vampire. There's so many ways to go here. You got vampires, you got clerics, you got sacrifice, you got 1/1 counters, you've got vampires, flyers. I mean, there's so many options here. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really focus in on anything. I did, because where my mind went to first is number one, in order to maximize this ability, because it's when she attacks, doesn't have to deal combat damage, just attacks. You've got to have creatures in your graveyard in order to take full advantage of it, right? Well, so I was looking at cards that had like die triggers and stuff. So, I'll show you how I got lost down the rabbit hole. Okay, let me find the card. Falkenrath Noble. Because that was kind of one of the first cards. I don't know why, it was just in the box, I guess. When it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Because that's a very vampire-y thing, right? And it's a 2/2 flyer, so, I mean, it's not terrible. Well, 4 mana, yeah, it's not great, but it led me down the life gain path. It did. Yeah. And I went deep down that rabbit hole. The Vampire Neonate. Because here we are. I did not set out to build a vampire deck. But if you're in black and you want to gain life, you tend to play vampires. So it just kind of organically happened. Or not organically, as it were. Indulgent Aristocrat was doing things I wanted to do. It sacrificed a creature. You get a 1/1 counter on each vampire. By this time, I was like, well, screw it, I'm playing vampires. And it has a lifelink. It's Vampire of the Dire Moon, Death Touch lifelink. It's a 1-drop, so you can throw it out there early if you happen to get lucky enough and it's in your opening draw to kind of dissuade things from coming your way. The Oathsworn Vampire. You can cast it from your graveyard if you gain life this turn. Sweet. Child of the Night has a lifelink. Markov Patrician has a lifelink. Chalice of Life. Now, this is a great card. This is a flip card. You gain 1 life if you have more. The backside of this that it transforms into says tap, target player loses 5 life. You know how awesome that is. Sadistic Sky Marcher. Flying lifelink on a 2/2. We have Gary. Not a vampire, but we're playing mono black. I think the only other non-vampire card I have in here is the Phyrexian Delver, because it is just perfect for the deck, right? We have the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. Whenever you gain life, it puts a counter on it. Epicure of Blood. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1. So we are finding ways to win. I mean, we have the Bloodbond Vampire. Gain life, it gets a counter. Vampire Sovereign. You life slurpee somebody for 3. Arterial Flow. We're not really playing it that much for the discard, but it sure helps. Sovereign's Bite. Yawgmoth's Edict. I know it's not fair to hate on the weakest color in the game, but it's just 1 life, right? And then, so I'm so far down this life gain rabbit hole that I was like, all right, fine. Demon's Horn, Staff of the Death Magus. We'll do the Vampire Nighthawk because it's great. So we're firmly, solidly into vampires at this point, right? My ramp, there's not a whole lot of ramp here. This is not a very expensive CMC-wise deck. I mean, I have the Relic. Because you gain 3 life and draw a card. This is and then a dark ritual. The card draw, as it were, of course, we have the Sign in Blood and the Witch's Cauldron. You get to sack a creature, you gain life, you draw a card. All three things we want to be doing in this deck. We have Champion of the Dusk. Number of vampires you control. Dark Tutelage. I'm pretty sure I'm not responsible enough to play with this card. I know I am not responsible enough to play with Greed. But I am. And then, of course, we have Read the Bones. Shall we look at the rest of the vampires? Why not? First, I want to point out the Nambo. This is the only legendary one. Let's focus in here. Krovax the Cursed. 4 mana, comes into play with 4 1/1 counters on it, counts as a vampire. Hey, do you know what that means? Back in the day, before we had summon creature, that was the original wording for creature. Of course, it would say summon angel, summon elf, whatever. And legend was an actual creature type. It wasn't a super type. But now it is a super type, and Krovax the Curse is a vampire. Back then, in order for it to be regarded as a vampire, they had to put that line, counts as a vampire. So you know what that means? It means Krovax counts like 1, 2. Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. But a lot of the old cards had that, like Radiant had it. She counts as an angel. I don't know how angels count, but we know how vampires count, right? Sorry. Little bit of dad humor in there. But we have the Vicious Conquistador. Each opponent loses 1 life, so that's just when it attacks. So somebody's taking whoever I like this. Pulse Tracker, kind of similar. Vampire Interloper has flying, of course. Bloodthrone Vampire, it's a sack outlet for us. Null Priest of Oblivion. Maness, Lifelink. And that kicker's pretty sweet too for this deck. Malakir Coldblade. Opponent controls dies, it gets a counter. Dark Imposter. What? All activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with it. And more importantly, this is 6 mana : exile target creature. It is a reusable creature removal spell. Spike Hannibal does a pretty good... now, granted, it takes all the 1/1 counters. So we got to be selective on where we do it. It could potentially be a Nambo too, but there are decks out there that can out-counter us, like the last deck I did. Sky Marcher, Bloodletter, lose and gain. Even doing the Diamond Knight, because I figured why not, right? Gets a 1/1 counter on it. We have Silver Smoked Ghoul, a zombie vampire. It's undead in every kind of way that's possible. Queen's Agent, Bloodlord of Vaskoth. Now, I love me some Bloodthirst. Yeah. Singir Vampire, using that 10th edition version this time. Blood Host, another sack outlet, and then Stromkirk Patrol, dealing with the 1/1 counters. Merrick Nightblade would have been a really good addition to this deck, wouldn't it? I think I used my last one in Grakmaw yesterday. So, we have got some randomness here. Relic of Progenitus I've got in there because you want to be able to control what your opponents are picking for you, right? For your commander ability. We have Tortured Existence to be able to do the same thing, to control what's in the graveyard. Phyrexian Reclamation, same. Underworld Dreams is in there. To be honest with you, this is probably a slot, but I have noticed I play Underworld Dreams to keep blue players honest. Or, well, more honest than they. Because it never fails. You always end up, and that person's like, I'm going to draw 42 cards this turn, or whatever. We have Revenge of Ravens. You know, it's a little bit of life gain. It's not a big deterrent, but it's a big deterrent if somebody is doing the go wide thing, right? Blood Tribute. You know, we're solidly in vampires. Which, by the way, there are way better ways to go about building this deck. Y'all know that I am more of the casual, let's all sit down and have fun side. So that's kind of what I did with it. I'm actually kind of anxious to play it. And then we have, you know, the Urge to Feed, because, like I said, vamps. Only 2 non-basic lands in Rogue's Passage and Everglades. But let's look at some removal. Now, I mean, we have normal removal stuff, right? We have Murder. Necrotal's really good because, you know, it's going to take out something when it comes. It's got a 1 toughness. It's going to die. But our commander can help get it back. Corrupt, we're in mono black. Dark Banishing. Now, Hagra Mauling, here again, it is 4 mana. We have to think like it's 4 mana, right? It costs 4. If we get that bonus, yeah, it's 3, sure. But it's a 4 mana destroy target creature, which is not great. But there again, it's got that land on the backside, so it's kind of almost like it's okay now. Deathmark. I really like some Reckless Spite. You know, at instant speed, you can nuke 2 creatures. Yeah, they can't be black, and you lose 5 life. That's fine. I probably would have lost 5 from your 2 attackers getting through anyway. We have Vow of Malice. I had forgot about the vows. My buddy Danny put one of the vows in his deck, and I'm like, you know what? Goad is really, really good. This ain't Goad. I know it's not Goad. He used one of the Goad ones, but I like that it, can't hurt you. And then lastly, we have Death Grip because green is so good. Yeah, green's one of my favorite 5 colors, but it's so good and it's so popular. Encounter a green spell. This is, mass land destruction is not really widely accepted. It's generally frowned upon. And without land destruction, it's hard to keep that green ramp player in check. I know, I do it. I'm a ramping fool whenever I can. And the ability to have a repeatable green counterspell, and I don't feel it's bad with green because, it's green. They should have the ability to remove this enchantment, right? Just my feelings. It's like when you play, Tsunami in green up against blue. I don't have a problem with it because the blue players should have a counter. And you don't play the hate cards like that just to be hateful. You do it when it strategically is going to win you the game, But that is number 616, Drana, on the wall. It's filling up faster than I thought it would. Although there was that period of time where I wasn't doing a deck a day, and I'm going to try to keep doing the deck a day as long as I can, as much as I can, because let's face it, I'm about to get way behind with Commander Legends. Yeah, but I'm super excited about it, so there's that. Anyway, I appreciate all y'all watching, but right now, it is time to shuffle and cut.